The Kryn Imperium had conquered 11,000 worlds. Not through diplomacy, not through mercy, through mathematics, the cold, elegant math of overwhelming force. Send enough ships, enough soldiers, enough steel, and no species in the galaxy could refuse the inevitable. That was the doctrine. That was the law of conquest, written in the ashes of 100 civilizations who had tried to say no. So when Fleet Marshal Trask'Vor received the report on Earth, a planet of 8 billion soft, fragile primates with no colonies, no fleet larger than a few hundred vessels, no weapons that could scratch the hull of a single Kryn dreadnought, he laughed. "This," he said, holding up the intelligence file, "is what took 3 of our scout ships?" His officers said nothing. They had seen the wreckage. It began, as these things often do, with a warning that no one heeded. Human deep space monitoring caught the Kryn fleet 6 months before it arrived, 300 warships, arranged in a formation designed for one purpose: annihilation. Earth's governments, for once, did not argue. They did not delay. They simply acted. By the time the Kryn armada dropped out of hyperspace above Earth, they found something unexpected waiting for them. 12 ships. Trask'Vor stared at the tactical display, certain it was some kind of malfunction. "Confirm sensor readings," he ordered. "Confirmed, Marshal. 12 vessels. Human design. Weapons hot. 12 ships against 300. On the bridge, a young lieutenant named Sevika, barely out of the academy, still believing in the old stories of glorious war, turned to her commander with something like pity in her eyes. "Do we hail them, Marshal? Give them the chance to surrender." Trask'Vor considered it. Then he smiled, the expression alien and cold. "Let them fire first. Let the historians record that humanity had its chance to kneel." The human ships did not retreat. They did not hail. They did not beg. They simply opened fire, and the galaxy's understanding of humanity began, for the first time, to crack. The Kryn had fought 100 species. They had catalogued patterns of fear, patterns of desperation, patterns of surrender. But this was different. The human formation moved with a discipline that unsettled even Trask'Vor's most seasoned captains. Ships that should have scattered under the weight of 300 guns instead wove between torpedo spreads like they had rehearsed this exact battle 1,000 times. Because they had. Every simulation, every war game, every sleepless night of planning by tired engineers and desperate admirals had led to this single moment. 12 ships, built not to win, but to bleed the enemy long enough for something else to happen. "Marshal," Sevika said, voice tightening, "we're losing the Ashen Crown." Trask'Vor's jaw clenched. One human ship, had disabled a dreadnought 300 times its mass, slipping a swarm of drones through a gap in its shields that shouldn't have existed. "It's a trick," he muttered. "A trap. Reinforcements are coming." He was right, just not in the way he expected. The reinforcements were not more warships. They were people. As the battle raged in orbit, human transport vessels, unarmed, unarmored, painted with the sigil of a red cross, flew toward the fighting, not away from it. Trask'Vor watched in disbelief as one such ship broke from the fleet, ignoring every tactical protocol, and moved to intercept a drifting Kryn lifeboat ejected from a dying frigate. "What are they doing?" Sevika whispered. The Kryn crew aboard that lifeboat were enemies. Invaders. By every law of war, the humans could have let them die in the vacuum or worse. Instead, the human ship opened its bay doors and pulled them in. Trask'Vor demanded answers from the human commander over an open channel, the first words spoken between their species in the middle of a war neither had asked to end this way. "Why?" he asked, his voice carrying centuries of conquest, generations of never once considering an answer that wasn't tactical. The human commander, a tired-looking woman named Captain Elena Reyes, blood on her uniform, static crackling through the feed, answered simply, "Because they're still people, even if they're trying to kill us." Trask'Vor had no framework for this. His species did not rescue their enemies. They did not extend mercy in the middle of annihilation. It was not weakness, it was something else. Something his translators struggled to define. "You would save the ones trying to destroy your world?" "We'd try to save anyone," Reyes said. "That's kind of the whole point of being human." The battle that should have lasted minutes stretched into hours. 12 ships became 8. 8 became 5. But every human vessel fought not just to survive, but to protect. Civilian evacuation routes, orbital shelters, even enemy lifeboats drifting in the black. And as Trask'Vor watched his overwhelming force grind against something it could not fully comprehend, a terrible realization began to dawn on him. "Marshal," Sevika said quietly, staring at the reinforcement reports flooding in from Earth's surface. "There are more of them, hundreds more ships. They were never all here." Trask'Vor felt something he had not felt in decades of conquest. Doubt. "You mean," he said slowly, "that wasn't their full army?" "No, sir." Sevika's voice shook. "That was the volunteer fleet. The ones who launched before the official mobilization even finished. 12 ships had been enough to fight 300 to a standstill, not because they were strangers to fear, but because they had chosen, each of them, to stand between their homes and annihilation anyway. And behind them, an entire planet was still waking up. Trask'Vor ordered the retreat himself. Not because his fleet was broken, though it was bleeding badly, but because for the first time in his long career, he understood he was not looking at an enemy's strength. He was looking at their will. As the Kryn ships limped back into the dark, Sevika asked the question that would haunt Imperial command for years to come. "Marshal, what are they?" Trask'Vor watched Earth shrink behind them. A small blue world defended by soldiers who ran toward danger and pulled enemies out of the wreckage in the same breath. "I don't know," he said quietly, "but I hope we never have to find out what their full army looks like." Word of the battle spread across 1,000 worlds. Not as a victory, not as a defeat, but as a warning wrapped in wonder. They said the humans fought like soldiers who had nothing to lose. They said the humans healed like the war had never happened. And in council chambers across 100 alien empires, one truth began to take root, quiet and unshakable. Humanity did not need overwhelming numbers to be dangerous. They needed only a reason to stand. And for the first time, the galaxy understood what it truly meant to be human. If the story moved you, subscribe for more human stories from the stars.